Guys, we are going to start the training part of our call. What we're going to be bringing to you today, what we're going to be talking about is the 4 biggest mistakes new agents make. And you've got myself, Joe Johnson, Michael Mahalik, and Jimmy Hernandez bringing this information to you. Most of the content that's going to be delivered today is going to be Michael Mahalik, and then Jimmy and I will add in as we feel necessary. So, Michael, let me turn the floor over to you, and you go ahead and take it away, sir.
Well, wonderful. I think before we begin, ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, before we talk about the 4 biggest mistakes, we need to talk about the 3 biggest things that you do need to do to give a successful presentation. And we sort of call this the 3 C's of final expense presentation success. To successfully give your final expense presentation, you must follow the 3 C's. In other words, you need to give your presentation with confidence, conviction, and completely in its entirety each and every time. One reason you should be this ecstatic about being with Senior Solutions is they already have a time-proven, systematic presentation that over and over again has proven successful. And I think a lot of times, Joe and Jimmy, we take this for granted. Joe is one out there. Joe is just not a trust fund baby that one day took his parents' money and started Senior Solutions. He's been out there. He's got his lip bloodied. He's got his knees skinned up. Same with Jimmy Hernandez. You need to talk to Jimmy some about his story. It's very inspirational. But they both followed the 3 C's. They gave their presentation with confidence. They gave it with conviction, and they gave it completely following the Senior Solutions system each and every time. Because let's face it, when you give your presentation with confidence and conviction, your client's going to feel comfortable doing business with you. I think we all know, we probably have all heard many times, and Jimmy and Joe, you've corrected me on this percentage, that the majority of communication is nonverbal. And Joe, I love how you used the word cash flow glow. But there's another thing we also use a lot that's called commission breath. And if you're not giving your presentation with confidence, if you're not giving it with conviction, many times you're going to have commission breath and your clients are going to pick up on it. But even more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, you want to give the Senior Solutions presentation completely in its entirety each and every time. Because when you do this, you're going to educate your client. And as we all know, an educated client is a motivated client. And I think as Jimmy said last week, and you hear it from a lot of top performers, once you educate them, you normally get very few objections at the very end of the presentation. It's sort of the test of a good presentation is how many objections can it handle up front. So when you get to the close, to the point you're going to ask for the business, the objections have already been handled just by following the presentation. And many times we tell agents that giving your presentation in its entirety, giving it completely, it's like cooking a very good cake. It'd be like someone had called me and asked, "Hey, Mike, will you bake a cake for the football team?" And I'd say, like, really? I'm not a cook, so I'd have to find someone with a recipe. And you better believe I would have to follow that recipe, Jimmy and Joe, to a T. I wouldn't leave anything out like the eggs, but I wouldn't add anything in like Tabasco sauce as well, or that cake's just not going to taste the same. Well, it's the same thing with the Senior Solutions presentation. Joe and Jimmy are seasoned veterans, ladies and gentlemen. They have been there, done that, bought the T-shirt. They've done all the trial and error, all the bugs have been worked out, but basically presents you a perfect or close to perfect presentation, which the Senior Solutions presentation, which is your recipe for success in the final expense arena. So the 3 things you should be doing before we go to the 4 biggest mistakes is giving your presentation with confidence, giving it with conviction, and giving it completely, giving it in its entirety each and every time. And I love, Jimmy, how you brought up last week on your webinar that a lot of people skip over, Joe and Jimmy, the part where they go over the 3 options. One of the options being that there's a prepaid funeral plan. That a lot of people, as you were saying, Jimmy, already have it on their mind that they're going to go down to the funeral home. If you give your presentation its entirety, you won't have to worry about this right here. So starting off, the mistake number 1, the biggest mistake that people make is a failure to discover the client's why. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most crucial question you must ask. And after you do the warm-up, which I think, Jimmy, you said so succinctly last week, shouldn't be no more than 7 to 10 minutes, you need to discover your client's why. why did they request the information that you're out there talking to them about today? You know, what was on their mind? Because I'm here to tell you, if you don't do that, this is the biggest mistake that new agents make. Your presentation is going to have absolutely no direction, and you're going to end up somewhere that has absolutely nothing to do with the reason they request this information in the first place. And most likely, you're not going to write business today. So, you know, it's said a lot of different ways, a lot of different presentations. I know many people simply say, you know, Mrs. Smith, could you tell me what your thoughts and what your concerns were when you request this information? I've heard it that way many times. I love the way you do it, Jimmy. You go and say, well, you know, Mrs. Smith, the reason that most folks request this information is they just don't want to leave a financial burden behind to their loved ones. So it's so important, ladies and gentlemen, you discover that why. Let's face it, this is an emotional sale. And the one thing we never want to do is we never want to assume their why. Because let's face it, we don't live in their world, and we can't see the world from their shoes right now. So by asking that why, you're going to figure out why they sent it in and give them time to tell it to you. This is going to be an anchor for your entire presentation, which we're going to go over in a few minutes. Because let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, especially Joe and Jimmy, with you being in the business, both you guys for more than a decade, we can both all attest that these people are getting more final expense flyers. They're getting more final expense over the Facebook now. They can get these advertisements almost anywhere. So what possessed them? What this time made it so important that they were willing to fill out that final expense card and send it back in, or they were willing to fill out that post on Facebook when they had gotten, you know, probably hundreds of these solicitations before? You know, what motivated to send this in and put themselves in a vulnerable position, ladies and gentlemen, to have someone to come out and see them right here. So you want to find out why. You want to find out what thoughts have these people been having over and over again before you showed up today. Why did they just have a loved one unexpectedly pass away? I love your story, Jimmy, about Mr. Pablo, I believe, or Puelmo. I'm probably killing that. You know, his why is that his wife was on hospice, I believe, when you visited him. You're going to find that out when you ask why. Did they just have a health scare? I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing that will keep you up nighttime than you thinking that you have cancer or you thinking it's a malignant tumor. I had a friend that his wife, they went in and they thought she had a malignant tumor in her brain. It turned out to be benign. But I'm here to tell you, say he didn't sleep for weeks. Or did they just lose their coverage? Or maybe did the premium go up on the coverage that they had? So, ladies and gentlemen, it is just so important that you ask why. But the biggest reason that you need to ask why, ladies and gentlemen, is that it's going to give you leverage in your presentation. It's going to sort of act like an anchor of your presentation that you can return to time and time again. And what do I mean by this? Say if you're talking to Sarah, and Miss Sarah lives in San Antonio, Texas, and you say, you know, what were your thoughts and concerns when you send this in right here, Mrs. Sarah? And Sarah tells me, you know what, Jimmy, I just don't want to leave that burden on my one and only daughter, Sarah. You know, she's worked so hard, but she's living paycheck to paycheck, Jimmy, and I just don't want to put a financial burden on her. And at the worst possible time when she's already grieving my loss. Well, say you go to the Senior Solutions presentation tour, and at the very end of the close, you go to ask for the business, and Mrs. Smith says, well, you know, Jimmy, I need to think about this right here. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? What can you do? You can simply return right back to her original why, which is she did not want to leave a financial burden on her one and only daughter, Sarah. And you can say something, well, you know, Miss, and you can basically reply back to an emphatic, you know, heartfelt response. Well, you know, Mrs. Smith, I can certainly understand that. But I also know earlier in our conversation, you stated how you wanted to make sure that your daughter had the funds to take care of your funeral. You definitely made it clear that you do not want to leave a financial burden behind to paying your final expenses on Sarah. And that's why it's so powerful, ladies and gentlemen. You get that why, because that is the anchor of your presentation. Now, let's face it, they can give you multiple responses when you ask why. And probably one of the biggest questions that new agents ask us is, what if they don't give me an answer at all? So great news. We have a response for that because we're going to share with them the top 3 reasons that people request this information. But before I go there, I do want to give you some good news. Usually 70 to 80% of the time, and again, the way you did your presentation, Jimmy, which I want to applaud you, Jimmy actually tells them, hey, most folks that send this in their number one concern is they just don't want to leave a financial burden behind to their loved one. And normally 70 to 80% of the time, this is going to be the reason. You're going to commend them. You're going to tell them they don't like the type of person that would leave a financial burden behind to their loved ones. And actually, Mrs. Smith, this is the number one reason that people send this in. So I want to commend you for doing this. Well, what if they say, well, you know, Jimmy, I really don't know. I guess I just sent this in because I wanted to see what it was all about. Well, no worries, ladies and gentlemen, because guess what? You're going to provide them with the top 3 reasons that people request this information. Well, Mrs. Smith, I can certainly understand that. But with that being said, I'd like to share with you the top 3 reasons that people request final expense insurance. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these top 3 reasons have been said a million different ways, and I will probably say them differently than the Senior Solutions flip chart. But really, to give you the bare bones of what these reasons are, is that people either have absolutely no coverage at all and they need some. People have some coverage and they need some more, or people have enough coverage and they want to leave a special gift. But I will say it my way right here, and of course stick to the Senior Solutions flip chart to do it the Senior Solutions way. But Mrs. Smith, you know, the number one reason that people send us is they realize the high cost of funerals today, and they absolutely have no coverage right now. They just don't want to leave a financial burden behind to the loved ones when they pass away. Or the second most popular reason, Mrs. Smith, that people request this coverage is maybe they've done a little bit of preparation, like they have a small policy, or maybe they've even purchased their plot, but they realize it's not nearly enough to cover the high cost of funerals today. And again, they just don't want to leave that financial burden behind for their loved ones. Or the third most popular reason is maybe they have enough insurance to cover their final expenses, or maybe they've even prepaid their funeral, but they'd like to leave a tax-free gift to a special loved one, like a child or grandchild, or maybe a donation to a favorite charity, or possibly a final tithing to their church. Now, Mrs. Smith, which one best describes you? And again, you're quiet because again, you don't want to tell them their why. You want them to tell you. You want them to tell you their why, because that's going to teach you, ladies and gentlemen, what makes these people tick, what motivates them, but most importantly, what's important to them. And with the why question, ladies and gentlemen, you want to ask it as soon as you can in the presentation, because it's really going to get your presentation off to the right start. So Jimmy and Joe, would you guys like to throw in on the first biggest mistake that agents make, which is failure to discover their client's why?
No, man, you hit it on the head. I usually have that conversation with them right up front. I do it the same way you do, man. Usually what I'll do, Michael, is when I'm talking to them during the warm up, and I have the lead card there, and I'm talking to them, and I say, Michael, I've been doing this for a long time, and our company, mails out thousands of these letters every single day. And Michael, most people tell me the reason why they mail this card back in for information is because they simply just don't want to leave their family with a financial burden when they pass away. Michael, is that the reason why you mailed in the card?
Yes, sir.
Wait. Now, what you said was right on. I think the majority of people say, well, yeah, that's why I mailed it in. Or sometimes they will give you something else. Well, I don't know why I mailed it in. I just want to get some information. No problem. Great. I will usually move on. I will say, well, that's great, Michael. In fact, that's the reason why I'm here. My job today is not to try to sell you something, but simply to provide you some education and deliver the information in which you requested. I will go ahead and move on, okay? And I will go ahead and go into my 2-pocket folder. I'll go ahead and go into my pre-sale folder and go through, and then I will pick it back up when I'm doing my flip chart presentation. Then that's when I'm going to go over it again. Because so what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to pound them for their why if they're resistant. You know what I mean? Like if they already tell me once, well, I'm not sure why I sent it in. Well, was it because of this? Was it because of that? I'm going to leave it alone. I'm not going to push on that particular subject. I'm going to move on with my presentation. I'm going to deliver the information. But you see, within doing the proper presentation, in doing the fact finding, utilizing the pre-sale folder, when I'm going through that information, see now that I'm delivering that information, I can start asking questions. Oh, Michael, out of curiosity, have you done any pre-planning? And you say, well, no. I mean, like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, do you currently already have some life insurance, or, have you prepaid for your plot? Have you gone to the funeral home? I mean, any type of pre-planning like that. So I'm going to be able to do a little bit of digging and investigating and fact finding while I'm delivering the information. And then I'll be, when I do my flip chart presentation, I'm going to go back through those questions and then ask about, why most people request the information. If they weren't transparent in the beginning, they'll be more transparent after I deliver value and I do a little
Yes.
bit of fact finding. Does that make sense?
The law of reciprocity. When you give to people,
Absolutely.
they'll give back.
Yes. So anyway, that's that. I'll turn the call back over to you. I'll let you go to the.
I love it.
next
Just
one.
a side note, I love, Joe, how Jimmy said last week that he spends the majority of his time at the beginning and going over the free stuff that he gives in the folder, because he's
Absolutely.
building that reciprocity, etc.
Yeah.
So we're going to sort of tie together, ladies and gentlemen, mistakes number 2 and 3, because they kind of go together. I can't tell you how many times when people have bought leads, they come back to us and say, well, these leads weren't any good because half the people already had insurance coverage. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to tell you, and I know the veteran agents already know this, you new agents, that is a very good thing, because you've already got a client that believes in insurance. But even more so, once you learn our competition out there, there's one company, and Joe, I hate talking bad about our competition, that's named after the U.S. president, and he was actually born in your state down in Springfield. You may know him. First name's Abraham. Yeah, we replace their policies constantly. Ladies and gentlemen, you would not believe what is out there. As an insurance agent, as a final expense agent, you need to realize that you can take basically 2 different ways to approach this business. One is you can come in as a captive agent, which means you only represent one company. And guess what? You're a one-trick pony. You have one product, and it usually don't have, of course, a day one coverage or graded or ROP, but that's the only product you can offer. Here is the power of being part of Senior Solutions, everybody. You are an independent agent. You have access to all the products in the great state of Illinois, or the great state of Texas, or Florida, or wherever you are, and you have the ability to do the shopping for them, to get them a top-rated carrier that's going to give them the most amount of coverage for the least amount of money out of their back pocket. So when someone else has insurance, and if you're on Jimmy's call last week, you're normally going to find that out on option number 2. And Mrs. Smith, some people have done a little bit of preparation, like they already have a small policy, or they already have their plot ball. Well, Jimmy, I do have a small policy. Well, Mrs. Smith, do you mind if we take a look at that policy right there? You want to get them to bring you that policy in there. And Jimmy did such a great job on talking about replacements last week. And as you and I spoke, Joe, we won't get too deep into this right here. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to change your mindset when someone tells you they already have insurance coverage to a good mindset. You should get excited. That's someone who's already being paid for insurance, already believe in it. The second reason you should get excited is, guys, our competition has so many junk products out there. 2-year wait periods. Your clients are ungraded when they can get day one coverage. Give an example, as you know, Transamerica, Liberty Bankers give day one coverage for COPD. We can't tell you how many times we're out in the field, we pull someone's insurance policy out, and they're only graded for COPD. Ladies and gentlemen, you can give them day one coverage, because again, never forget your power in the fact that you're an independent broker. You do not represent an insurance company. No, you represent them. And as Jimmy said, you're not married to any company, and you cheat around on them all the time. So whenever someone says they already have an insurance policy, don't worry. So the second biggest mistake that people make is failure to review existing policies, which again, we're going to find out using the very beginning when we're discovering their why. Change your mindset. This is a good thing. Number 2, go back, listen to Jimmy's webinar on the things you need to look out for. Of course, 2-year wait periods. They're ungraded when they can go day one coverage, extremely high premium, which, the company named after the U.S. president, the coverage, the price is this high and the coverage is this low. look at it as a good thing. And Joe and Jimmy, I'm going to turn it over to you before I go to the third one, which is comparing our product against all those products they see on TV and receiving the mail. So, Jimmy and Joe, any words of advice before we move to number three?
Yeah, I wanted to jump in there just to let you know, like the mindset. Whenever somebody tells me they have existing coverage, I love to hear that. Like as an agent, you need to understand that that's a really good thing. The way I interpret that is that these are insurance people. You know, they already have insurance. That means to me, they already are doing a bank draft somewhere. They have a checking account set up. So that's a good thing, right? They either are going to want more coverage, or maybe you might even replace the coverage just depending on what kind of policy they have, if it makes sense for them. But let me tell you, if they have insurance, just you need to, cipher that as, all right, these are insurance people, and you have a very high probability of closing that sale. Too many rookies out there here, oh, I already have insurance, and they put their head between their legs and they walk off, and they just give up. You need to get excited about that.
Very powerful. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to make something very clear, and I say this all the time. If you can't make it with Senior Solutions, you can't make it anywhere. And the reason I say that is 90% of the IMOs out there will contract you, give you a contract, and what do? They say, go get them, Tiger. And they just throw you out there, and it's sink or swim. Your training here at Senior Solutions is second to none. What I mean by that is that you're trained to do what's right by the client. Number one priority is always do right by the client. 90% of your competition is not thinking that way. They're wanting to make a quick commission. They're putting them on anything. So the opportunity is just abound for replacement. But it all starts with reviewing those existing coverages. Before I go on, Joe, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, yeah, just one real quick thing. You're talking about a lot of clients, you will go in, they have existing coverage, maybe they bought a year or 2 years ago. A lot of times, guys, you will find out that they were put into a policy, a graded policy, what Michael said, when they could have qualified for same-day coverage. In fact, that company that you mentioned that's named after a U.S. president, I know for a fact that they are encouraged, the agents are encouraged to put clients into graded policies. I know that for a fact. So there's a lot of times I've walked in behind that particular company and they're in perfect health and they're in a graded policy. Why? Because it's easier and the premiums are higher and they got paid the same. So we're here to add value. We're not here to rip clients off. We're here to add value. We're here to put them into the best policy that's a good fit for that client, and try to maximize them and try to get them the best coverage that they can. Because if you take a shortcut, and this has happened, I see this sometimes with newer agents, not experienced agents, but new agents. They'll walk in and through no fault of their own, it's probably a lack of training. I'll take the blame. It's probably my fault. But they'll walk in and they'll meet with a client, and the client, oh, I've got COPD, I'm insulin dependent diabetic, and they've got you've seen it. They pull out a small little like an igloo cooler full of medication, or they bring what looks like an Easter basket, but instead of having eggs in it, it's got about 30 pill bottles in it. And then the agent is just looks like a deer in headlights. And what do? They automatically go to Gerber or AIG, some type of oh my God, you got all these medications. Well, listen, I'm not even going to ask you any health questions. We're just going to go straight to graded. That's a rookie mistake, a rookie mistake. So in order to not be to make a rookie mistake, man, just take the time and go through and ask the questions. Slow down, especially if they have a crap load of medications. Slow down, be methodical, go through, read through every single health question, go through every single medication. And what you will find is that the majority, 80% or higher of your clients, if you really do your homework, are gonna qualify for same day coverage. So don't take shortcuts. You'll end up, because an experienced agent will come in behind you and replace your business if they can find that same client same day coverage. So with that, Michael, I'll turn it back over to you, buddy.
So powerful. And as I said, we're going to marry mistakes number 2 and number 3. So mistake obviously is failure to review existing coverage. Mistake number 3 is failure to compare us to them. And who is them? Well, them is Alex Trebek, AARP, Globe Life, and all those commercials you see constantly on TV. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They get them in mail. And Joe, I'm not on Facebook, but I'm sure they're probably getting those ads now on Facebook as well. And I love, Jimmy, how you said last week that normally 80% of the time, if you're in a house, you can actually find some from AARP in that house. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm nearing 50 years old now, and I'm embarrassed to tell you this, but I'm watching some of the channels that the seniors watch now, the Gunsmoke and Golden Girls and Andy Griffith channels. And on these channels, our competition, Colonial Penn, AARP, Globe Life, MetLife, Physicians Mutual, are continuously pounding our clients with these commercials. I'm sure you have seen, I think the world of Mr. Alex Trebek, by the way. He's wonderful with Colonial Penn. But he's on all the time, and he's basically programming these people. And I'm sure, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard him say over and over, you cannot be turned down for any reason whatsoever. Who doesn't know AARP? They're sort of the gold standard of the senior community. So they're really using star power, these companies are right here, to get their products across. But saying that these products, ladies and gentlemen, are substandard to what you can offer from Senior Solutions is an understatement. Every one of these products has strings attached, because what's the difference between these products they see on TV and receiving the mail is that they do not have a personal field underwriter, which is you, ladies and gentlemen, sitting in their house right now. You're in that house. You can see that oxygen tank in the corner. You can see there's an amputation. You can see those puffers, etc. You can look at that medicine when they say they don't have Alzheimer's or dementia, and they've got a medication that's just for those 2 things right there. So the biggest thing is that you compare what we do to what our competition does, which is those things you see on TV and receive in the mail. So a lot of the things they receive in the mail, Globe Life, etc., those are group term policies, which means every 5 years they can actually go up. And with our clients who are on a fixed budget, our clients being seniors and the low to low middle income, who know if they have more money at the end of their month or more month at the end of their money, is so crucial that their premiums stay locked and it stays the same. And usually if they're on a Globe Life or one of those type policies, their premium is going to increase. So you want to ask to see these things right here. Another thing is a lot of these policies have a 2-year wait period on it. I'm not picking on Mr. Jeopardy, Alex, anymore, but let's face it, that policy has a 2-year wait period. If they pass away, ladies and gentlemen, say they get a $8,000 benefit. If they pass away within 2 years of getting an $8,000 benefit, they are of natural causes, not of accidental, but of natural causes. They are not going to receive that $8,000 benefit. No, they're simply going to receive return of premium and 10%. So let's kind of pit one of the Senior Solutions policies against Mr. Alex Trebek. He's got $8,000. You wrote a policy with Senior Solutions, day 1 coverage for $8,000. If they pass away within those 2 years of natural causes with Mr. Jeopardy, say if maybe they passed away within 6 months in the policy, it's a $50 a month policy. You simply say 6 times 50 is $300. Colonial Penn is going to pay him 10% interest, so 6 times 10. So they're going to give out $330 back, compared to if you'd written them a policy with one of the Senior Solutions carriers for day 1, they'd get the full $8,000 benefit. And what Joe said is so true. It's been proven over and over that 90% of people that get these policies, ladies and gentlemen, would have qualified for day 1 coverage. And you can kind of say, hey, Mrs. Smith in Joliet, Illinois, let me kind of compare this to you. Say if you went down to the local car dealership in Plainfield on Route 59 and you bought yourself a brand new car, and the finance manager says, well, Mrs. Smith, here's the payment book, but guess what? I'm not going to give you your keys till you make 2 years worth of payments. Now, Mrs. Smith, how would you like that? And she's not going to like it. But even worse, I thought, Jimmy, you illustrated it so perfectly last week, is many companies, their coverage expires. AARP is one of them, where their coverage expires at age 80. And you can ask them, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, do you think you're going to live past age 80? You know, you turn age 80 and AARP says, happy birthday, your coverage is gone. So it's so important. But ladies and gentlemen, the biggest reason you need to compare what we did, what they need to do, is here's what's going to happen if you don't. And again, it all goes back to giving your presentation as entirety each and every time and educating your client. What if you didn't talk about Alex Trebek? What if you didn't talk about AARP? And you write that policy and you walk out the door, and guess what? Here comes Mr. Jeopardy on TV, and he's talking about Colonial Penn. I go, wonder what Jimmy didn't bring this up to me. Or they go to the mailbox, and there's the AARP mailer in there talking about their policy. I wonder why Jimmy didn't bring this up to me. And then you have an uncertain client, and uncertain clients, ladies and gentlemen, usually have a higher probability of canceling your policy and giving you a chargeback. So crucial, ladies and gentlemen, you compare what we do to what they do, because, ladies and gentlemen, there's really no comparison. We can give day one coverage usually 90% of the time to what they do, which is usually a 2-year wait period or an increasing term. So over to you, Joe and Jimmy, for your comments.
Oh, no, you covered it exactly, man. Go ahead and continue. I'm just going to do a real quick comparison because we do, come across Colonial Penn quite often.
Yes. And Joe, I want to throw in on the YIG website, and I've not checked the Senior Solutions website. Ladies and gentlemen, you can print off the sales literature. And this is sort of a pro tip right here. You can print off the literature for Colonial Penn, AARP. I hate to tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, but one of our main carriers is also a competitor, is Mutual of Omaha. They have a product that cannot be sold by agents, but it's the same as the Colonial Penn as well. You can also print off that sales literature off of the YIG website. And that way, ladies and gentlemen, you can actually take the literature from these companies, highlight it, and actually show them in the sales literature and let their sales literature do all the sales for you. I mean, you won't have to, have any big presentation to show what they don't need to do. And they'll call these people morons themselves. They can know that a 2-year wait is way worse than getting it immediately. So wonderful, Joe. You compare that. We'll go into number 4, which is failure.
Michael, I just wanted to say you're doing a great job. We're running a little bit past time, and I need to get to a presentation at 12.
Okay.
I'm doing so.
We guys will wrap it up.
Weekend.
You got it. Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for last week for your great presentation, sir.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, mistake number 4 is failure to give your client options. Now, I know Jimmy had made a comment last week that this is probably one of the most skipped parts of the Senior Solutions presentation. And Joe, you can chime in if you see that as well. But ladies and gentlemen, you need to give your clients options. You need to get it out there on the table. First of all, let your client know that you're the expert. But second of all, it educates them. And normally there are 3 options our clients have. Option number 1 is do nothing, which many of them are already in that shape right there. And many times we'll let our clients know, well, Mrs. Smith, option number 1, doing nothing. Well, that's not really an option, because no one wants their final I love you letter to their loved ones to be a huge funeral bill. And actually, this is our responsibility. But option number 2, Mrs. Smith, is that you can go down to the local funeral home, and the funeral home of your choice, you can get what's called a prepaid funeral plan. And most of their plans are in the $12,000, $15,000 range. And the funeral director is going to say, well, Mrs. Smith, can you write a check today for that? And Mrs. Smith, what's going to be your answer? Well, obviously, you're probably just like me, Mrs. Smith. There's no way you could write that $15,000 check. Then the funeral director is going to say, well, Mrs. Smith, that's no problem. We can put you on an installment plan. And ladies and gentlemen, the best comparison I can do to this installment plan is layaway. And used to be a company called Kmart. I think they may actually have some locations left, not many of them. But they used to have one of the best layaway plans out there. And you probably understand on layaway, you make monthly payments, or you're really dragged out. And usually there's a finance or administrative cost. So as you can imagine, Mrs. Smith, for $15,000 on the installment plan, it's going to take you years upon years, Mrs. Smith. And in addition to that, Mrs. Smith, they're also going to tack on an administrative charge. They need to pay someone to balance your account out. So that $15,000, depending on how long it takes you to pay it off, could end up to be $16,000, $17,000, $18,000. Mrs. Smith, I think we both agree that no one really wants to pay more than what something's really worth. Oh, no, Mike, I totally agree. Well, Mrs. Smith, that's not the biggest quagmire. The biggest quagmire is this, is that if you pass away before that installment plan with your prepaid funerals paid off, your loved ones are going to be on the hook for the balance. So say if it was a $15,000 policy and you only lived off long enough to pay all 5,000 of it. Well, before you can be born, guess what? Your loved ones are going to have to come up with the other $10,000. So there's a lot of risk there, Mr. and Mrs. Client, because we don't know when we're going to pass away, and we don't know how long it's going to take to pay that off. But the option I like to really talk to my clients the most about, Mr. and Mrs. Client, is the state regulated plan that if you qualify, will be paid out to your beneficiary on a 100% tax-free day one basis, which means, Mrs. Smith, as soon as you're approved, you're going to qualify for this $10,000 or $15,000 benefit. There's no 2-year wait period like we talked about with Alex Trebek. There's no putting your policy on layaway like we talked about going to the funeral home, where if you pass away before it's paid off, your loved one's on the hook for the balance. No, with a state-regulated plan from Senior Solutions, Mr. and Mrs. Client, if you qualify, you will get day one coverage, which means it doesn't matter when you pass away after you're approved, your loved one's going to receive it. Here's the beautiful part. It's going to be paid to them on a 100% tax-free basis. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know we're running over, so I want to sort of wrap up. The fourth mistake that agents make is failure to go over the options. I know it's so easy to skip over that, but it is so detrimental because they've already got on their mind, I guarantee you, about going down to the local funeral home and talking to them. They got pre-need plans. Some will even add in insurance on top of those. We hands down beat these funeral homes. And again, using the layaway example, our clients, you better believe it, understand about putting something on layaway and the fact that they got to pay administrative costs and how long it takes, and the fact they got to pay the balance off to get it out. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's recap. Joe, for our recap, do you want to throw something in on going over the options?
Well, when I ran some comparisons, when would be a good time for me to just kind of interject and show how we stack up to Colonial Penn?
Wonderful. Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
Okay. All right. Hang on 1 second. Let me just do this divided by 8 equals 7. Okay. 750. All right. I was just on the website just doing some real quick homework. So guys, here's the thing about Colonial Penn is that sometimes can be very confusing to people and somewhat deceptive, because if you see a Colonial Penn ad, they always talk about, oh, we have plans starting as low as $9.95. $9.95. And sometimes those agents, those clients, they bring that up. Well, I can get Colonial Penn for $9.95. Here's what I do. I said, absolutely, Mr. and Mrs. Client. In fact, I can help you apply for that. I said, that's because I can. I can go right to the website and help them apply. Okay, but Mr. and Mrs. Client, before we do that, you need to understand how that works. And the fact is that it's $9.95 per unit. And I'll usually ask the client, I said, Mr. and Mrs. Client, out of curiosity, how much insurance do you think a unit is? And they usually don't know, or they'll say, well, I don't know, $1,000. That's a very good guess. But Mr. and Mrs. Client, in fact, a unit varies on how old you are. That's why Colonial Penn can offer the same rate for everybody. Doesn't matter if you're 50 or 80, everybody gets the same rate per unit, because all they do is the older you are, the lower the units are. As an example, if you're 50 years old, 1 unit of insurance may be $1,500. But if you're 70 years old, that $9.95, that may only get you $600 worth of insurance. Does that make sense? And then sometimes what I'll do is, Michael, I'll actually go on my phone and I'll go to the Colonial Penn website and I'll give them a quote so they can actually see it. Now, I've never had an agent or a client say, well, yeah, that sounds, after I show them what I can do, they say, oh, that sounds really good. I'd rather go, I want to go Colonial Penn. But part of it is just the education part. So what I did real quick is I just took I took a male born in June of 1950, which would make them 60 years old. I'm using male because typically we all know male rates are usually a little bit higher. Now, in Colonial Penn, you can't put in an exact face amount. You have to put in how many units you want. The maximum that was on the website I did on my phone was 8 units, and it was like $6,020 worth of coverage. So what that means is if I just take 6,000 divided by 8, that means if you're 69-year-old male, for $9.95, you can get $750 worth of insurance. So 8 units would be roughly about $6,000 worth of life insurance. The premiums for 6,000 for a 69-year-old male are $79.60. Show them that price.
Wow.
Because guess what? If you can get them same day coverage through Mutual of Omaha, it's only $43.
Wow.
If you have to go Gerber, which is our guaranteed issue, it's only $58. It's $20 less per month for the exact same amount of coverage. So guys, the best thing you can do, here's what I'm telling you, man, you never want to badmouth your competition. But so when someone brings up Colonial Penn, never come off and say, oh, Colonial Penn stinks and it's a ripoff. And man, say, oh yeah, Colonial Penn's a great company and Alex Trebek does a great job. And then say, let me educate you on how those plans work. Do you know how they work? And usually they'll say, well, it's guaranteed issue. You know how they say it's, no one can be denied. Explain it's a 2-year wait period and explain to them. And if you don't know, educate yourself on how is it that Colonial Penn can offer everybody, male and female, from ages 50 to 80, the same price. The only way they can do it, the logical way is they adjust the amount of coverage. And most clients will understand that. And if they don't, I'm telling you, just click on your phone, go to the Colonial Penn website and give them a quote. And you can show them right there on their website exactly what the quotes are. And then you can also say, let me give you some other options. Not only is there Colonial Penn, but we also work with Transamerica, Gerber, Mutual of Omaha. Mr. and Mrs. Client, my job is to find you the company that's going to provide you the best value. The great thing is, Mr. Michael, is that regardless of what company that we go with, you're guaranteed that it's going to be a highly rated, A+ rated company. Now they're going to feel comfortable. Like you're an advocate now. You're on their side. You're not bashing the competition because maybe they really like Colonial Penn. So it's better to educate than to automatically jump and say what a horrible company is. They may be defensive because maybe they had Colonial Penn or maybe their parents had Colonial Penn and actually paid out a death benefit. So you would never want to, does that make sense, Michael? You never want to.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, sir.
You never want to bash your competition.
No.
Anyway, I'll turn it back
Very
over to you.
Powerful. That's
we'll
the pro tip. Show them. So let's review one more time. First of all, let's talk about the 3 things you need to do to give a successful presentation. You want to give it with confidence. You want to give it with conviction. And you want to give it completely in its entirety each time. The Senior Solutions system has been set up and it has been proven time and time again to successfully close a final expense apply. So that's what you do want to do. The 4 mistakes that you want to avoid is obviously number 1 is failure to discover their why. You've got to discover that why. That gives your presentation direction. Number 2, failure to review existing coverage. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to be so proud of being an independent agent that puts you heads and shoulders above our competition, especially the ones that are captive companies that can only offer one type of company. Go out there and be looking for people that are on graded products when they could have won day 1 coverage. Be looking for those things. Number 3, compare what we do to what they do. And we're talking specifically about these products that you see on TV. and they receive in the mail. Many times these are term policies. Many times they expire at a certain age, and many of them, like Colonial Penn, has a 2-year wait period. Then number 4, never ever skip going over their choices to handle their final expenses, which is they can do nothing, which obviously is not an option. Number 2, they can get a prepaid plan from their local funeral home. You better already know that's already on their mind, so you want to address that. Or number 3, they can take the state regulated plan that, if they qualify, will give them day 1 coverage and will pay out to their loved ones on a 100% tax-free basis. Joe, it has been a pleasure, a great privilege to talk today on the Senior Solutions call. Again, I'm a firm believer. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I'm with the parent company, Your Insurance Group. I'm the Director of Agency Development, so I see a lot of different agencies. Senior Solutions is not only number 1 with Your Insurance Group, but pretty much throughout the industry, because they invest in you, not only on these calls, but also on the website, training website, which just has a wealth of information. So with that being said, I'm gonna turn it right back over to you, Mr. Johnson.
All right, buddy. We'll wrap things up, man. This has been outstanding, guys. I promised you, man, we're going to deliver some amazing content. I'm going to get this over the weekend, get this uploaded to YouTube, get it out to everybody. The last thing I will say, and it kind of go in conjunction with doing the in-home presentation, Michael, is guys,
Yes,
don't forget to do the 3-option close. Don't forget to do the 3-option close. And I was talking to an agent the other day. He did the 3-option close, but man, the quotes he gave were so close together, there was no contrast. In other words, they gave the agent, the client, a quote for like 10,000, 7,000, and 5,000. That's no contrast. Man, show them. I don't care if they're 80 years old, man. Show them the maximum benefit that they can get approved for. If they can get approved for 40 grand, show them 40 grand. I don't care if it's 300 a month. You know why? Because if it's 300 a month on the left, when they're looking over to the right and they see today's cost at $10,000 of coverage, and let's say they're 80 years old and it's I don't know, let's say it's $100 or $120 or 70, whatever it is, it seems a lot more reasonable than 300. Don't be scared and don't take a shortcut. You can always go back and show more options, but start with those 3s, because you gotta the 3-option worksheet doesn't work properly if you don't have contrasting premiums. You want big to the left, small to the right. Okay, that's the last little tip, Michael, and we'll let's wrap things up, man, for everybody.
You got it. Hey, well, we always like to leave our agents right here. So, sort of the word of the week is repetition, especially for you new agents. Joe has got the presentation on the back end of his website. Obviously, we got Jimmy's webinar that he did last week. Ladies and gentlemen, especially if you're brand new, get yourself to a quiet place, put those earphones in, and learn that presentation inside and out. That is your money maker. You want to be able to say that inside and out. There's a reason that Joe put each piece of that puzzle together to make the effective Senior Solutions presentation. So we really want to leave that. Repetition is the key to success in Final Expense. Listen to it over and over. Say it to your spouse. Say it to your children. Say it to your girlfriend, a best friend. But know that presentation, because that is the key to success. So, Joe, hope you have a great weekend. Everybody else has a great weekend. I'll turn it back over to you, sir.
All right, buddy. We're going to wrap up, man. Everybody, thanks for attending. I hope this content was helpful, and we will get it up on the YouTube channel over the weekend. God bless. Everybody take care. Bye, Michael. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, buddy.